It was raining the night Daniel came home early. Not the soft, romantic kind of rain that movies use to bring lovers together. This was a cold, unrelenting storm, the kind that stripped away anything not rooted deep. I remember the sound of the key in the door. It was wrong. He wasn't supposed to be home until Monday. I stood frozen in the hallway, barefoot, holding a glass of wine I no longer wanted. He walked in calmly, without a suitcase, without the usual hug. He looked at me like he was seeing a ghost. His coat was soaked, hair clinging to his forehead. In one hand, he held his phone. In the other, a printed sheet of messages, the ones I had deleted months ago. He didn't yell. He didn't ask why. He simply placed the paper on the counter and looked at me for what felt like an eternity. Then he nodded to himself, turned around, and walked upstairs. I followed him, uselessly stammering, trying to explain something I didn't even believe anymore. I expected rage. I expected questions. I expected a fight. But Daniel didn't give me that. He packed a small bag, placed his wedding ring on the dresser, and walked out the front door without another word. His silence was like a vacuum. It sucked every excuse I had prepared right out of me. I stood by the window for hours that night, watching the rain smear the street lights. Every sound became a phantom. Every passing car made my breath hitch. But he never came back. The days that followed blurred together. I told my boss, Greg, the man I'd ruined everything for, that I needed time. He sent flowers. I threw them in the trash. His touch, once electric, now felt like a brand I couldn't wash off. I avoided mirrors. I couldn't stand the woman looking back at me. I tried to return to normal, but everything tasted like ash. Friends asked where Daniel was. I told them we were taking space. That was easier than saying he caught me in a lie so big I lost the only man who ever made me feel like I was enough. Nights were the worst. I would sit in our bed, staring at the imprint where he used to sleep. Sometimes I'd wake up and instinctively reach for him, only to grab a cold pillow. I didn't cry at first. I couldn't. The guilt pressed so hard on my chest. I could barely breathe. It wasn't about love with Greg. It never was. He was charming. Yes, powerful. He made me feel seen during a time when Daniel was buried in work. I mistook attention for affection, flattery for feeling, and I traded something sacred for something temporary. That's the truth. As ugly as it sounds. Weeks passed. Daniel didn't call. He didn't text. He vanished like he'd never existed. But I carried him in every silence, every routine, every half-cooked dinner I couldn't finish. It was like living with a ghost whose only crime was loving me too well. And I started to understand something I hadn't the night he left. That his silence wasn't passive. It was his verdict. It was the sound of someone choosing dignity over disaster. I destroyed us. And he let the ruins speak for themselves. 8 years. That's how long it had been since Daniel walked out with his ring in one hand and my silence chasing him down the hall. I moved cities, changed jobs, grew older, but I never really moved on. Greg was gone within 3 months. The affair that cost me everything barely survived a single season. He called me intense once, like my sadness was a burden he hadn't signed up for. He went on to date someone 10 years younger. I heard he got promoted, married, and had twins. I got a dog, then lost it. I got a therapist, then stopped going. Most days I just floated. It was a Tuesday when a friend sent me the photo. I was in line at the grocery store, scrolling through messages while holding a box of cereal. Look who I ran into, she texted. And there he was, Daniel, older, fuller in the face, more lines round his eyes, but peaceful. He stood on a boardwalk beside a woman I didn't know, her arm wrapped through his, both of them mid-laugh. It hit like a car crash in slow motion, the way I'd once stood in that same spot, beside that same man, wearing a red coat and holding his hand. I left the store without the cereal. That night, I opened our old emails. The first one he ever sent me was still there. Subject: dinner, body. Or I could just stare at you across a desk again and pretend it's not distracting. I laughed, then cried, then kept scrolling. I found the last message too, the one he sent after he left. It was one sentence: take care of yourself, Laura. Not angry, not cruel, just final. I tried to sleep but couldn't, so I did what I hadn't done in years. I let myself feel it. All of it. The regret, the stupidity, the empty thrill of being wanted by someone who didn't even know me. And I realized something that shattered Me more than the night he left. I didn't cheat because I stopped loving Daniel. I cheated because I stopped loving myself. Greg made me feel seen at a time when I felt invisible, but it was artificial. Daniel didn't flatter me. He supported me. He believed in me. And I mistook that quiet, consistent love for something less than it was. I spent years trying to convince myself that what happened was a mistake I could outgrow. But I hadn't grown. I'd just gotten better at hiding it. Now, seeing him happy, truly happy, was like holding a mirror to the life I could have had if I'd just held on a little longer. If I'd just told the truth before it became a weapon. If I'd chosen loyalty over loneliness. I thought about emailing him. I drafted versions in my head for hours. Some were angry. Some begged. Others just apologized. But none of them felt right. I closed my laptop and sat in the dark, the light from the street lamp casting a soft glow across the room. The same room I'd filled with plants, books, and noise. Anything to drown out the silence he left behind. But nothing worked. Because the silence wasn't empty. It was him. The hotel bar in Chicago smelled like aged whiskey and ambition. I was there for a conference I didn't want to attend, wearing heels I couldn't wait to take off, pretending to care about networking with people I'd forget by morning. And then I saw him. Daniel. Across the room, standing with a group of colleagues, laughing, a glass in one hand, wedding band gleaming on his finger. His hair was shorter now, streaks of gray at the temples. Time had made him more handsome, more solid, like the years had honored him instead of wearing him down. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. He looked up. I scanned the room. Then they stopped. On me. There was no double take, no stumble, just a stillness. Recognition without surprise. His gaze didn't soften, but it didn't harden either. He said my name, Laura. I nodded, numb. My legs moved on their own. I walked to him like I was underwater, every sound muffled. I didn't know what I'd say. I'd rehearsed it for years. Apologies, explanations, maybe even that line about how I never stopped loving him. But all of it dissolved in the air between us. Hi, I said. Brilliant. Poetic. Hi, he replied, and gestured to the stool next to him. I sat. His colleagues drifted away, whether by instinct or awkward grace. They left us alone in that pocket of dim light and background jazz. He asked how I'd been. I lied, said good. I asked about him. He told me about the marketing firm he co-founded, the places he'd traveled, the house by the coast. Then he mentioned her, Emily, his wife. Not with bitterness, not to make a point, just fact. She's kind, he said. The kind who listens when people don't know how to speak. I smiled. She sounds like someone you deserve. He looked at me, then nodded. I do. Silence stretched. Not heavy, just final, like there was nothing left to drag out from the wreckage. We weren't those people anymore. The versions of us that loved and hurt each other were buried beneath years neither of us could relive. I wanted to say so much, to tell him I'd never healed, that I'd written emails I never sent, that the moment I saw that photo of him smiling was the moment I knew I had to stop lying to myself. But all I managed was, "You look good." His smile was gentle. "You do too." A lie, maybe. Or kindness. I couldn't tell. We didn't hug. We didn't exchange numbers. When he stood to leave, I did too. He placed his hand lightly on my shoulder, then walked away into the lobby light. I watched him until the glass doors shut behind him. That night in my hotel room, I wrote him an email. The words poured out, honest, raw, and not asking for anything. I told him I was sorry, not just for cheating, but for erasing the life we had to chase, something I didn't understand. I told him I hoped he was happy, and I meant it. I hit send at 17 a.m. Days passed. I checked my inbox more than I should have. Nothing. I imagined he read it, closed it, and carried on. And weirdly, that was okay. But on the fifth day, he replied. It was short. Laura, I don't hate you. I haven't for a long time. I hope you find peace. Thank you for the honesty. Take care. Danielle cried then. Not for him. For me. For the girl I was. The woman I became. And the space in between that nearly swallowed me whole. Weeks later, I heard Daniel and Emily got married by the sea. I didn't ache. I smiled. I finally understood that healing isn't about winning someone back. It's about becoming someone you're not ashamed to live with. I deleted his email that night. Not out of anger, but because I didn't need to hold on to it anymore. Some scars don't fade. but they do stop bleeding.